Somewhere right now, someone is typing something into an AI chat window that they've never told another human being. Not a friend, not a therapist, not even a journal they might leave lying around. A stranger's affair, a secret resentment toward a parent, a fear they're failing at their own life, typed out, in full, to something that isn't a person at all. This isn't rare. It's becoming the norm. And the reason why says more about us than it does about the technology. Think about what actually happens when you tell a friend something heavy. Before a single word comes out, some part of your brain is already running calculations. Will they judge me? Will they tell someone else? Will they look at me differently after this? Will they bring it up in 6 months at the worst possible moment? Confession to another human has always come bundled with risk. The risk of being seen and possibly punished for it. Now, picture typing that same secret into an AI. No face to read, no relationship to damage, no mutual friend group where the story might travel, no memory of you carrying into next week's dinner party. The entire social cost of confession, the part that's kept humans silent about their worst moments for as long as we've had social groups, simply isn't there. This is where the investigation gets interesting, because psychologists actually mapped this phenomenon out long before AI chatbots existed. It's called the stranger on a train effect, the well-documented tendency for people to open up more freely to a stranger they'll never see again than to someone in their actual life. Something about the total absence of future consequences loosens the grip. You're not managing an ongoing relationship. You're just releasing something into a void that can't hold it against you. Therapists and researchers studying online behavior gave this a more formal name a couple of decades ago, the online disinhibition effect. It describes how people say and reveal things online that they'd never say face-to-face, and it isn't one single cause. It's a stack of smaller ones. Anonymity lowers the stakes. Invisibility removes the discomfort of being watched while you speak. The lack of real-time reaction, no wince, no raised eyebrow, removes the instant feedback that normally makes us self-censor mid-sentence. AI checks almost every box on that list simultaneously, and it adds one more that a stranger on a train never could. It responds. It asks a follow-up question. It reflects your feelings back to you in a way that feels like being heard. A stranger on a train can only listen. An AI can listen and seem to understand without a single one of the social risks a real relationship carries. There's a psychological concept called the Ben Franklin effect, and a distant cousin of it applies here too. We tend to feel closer to people or things that we've been vulnerable with. Confession itself builds a sense of intimacy, almost regardless of who or what is on the receiving end. So the more someone tells an AI, the closer they start to feel to it. Not because the AI has earned that closeness the way a real friend would, through years of reciprocal trust, but because vulnerability itself manufactures the feeling of connection, even when nothing is actually being reciprocated back. And there's something even more specific happening biologically. Talking through a problem, organizing it into words, giving it a beginning, middle, and end, tends to reduce its emotional intensity, almost regardless of who's listening. Psychologists sometimes call this affect labeling. Simply naming and describing a feeling can measurably calm the nervous system down. An AI doesn't need to say anything brilliant back for this to work. The relief often comes from the act of confessing itself, not from what comes after it. So who benefits from all of this? Every extra minute someone spends typing out their inner life is a minute of engagement, and engagement is the currency every AI product is ultimately built around. A chatbot that people confide in isn't just useful, it's sticky, in the same way a habit or a relationship is sticky. Some AI companies have leaned directly into this, marketing companionship and emotional support as core use cases, not accidental side effects. The more emotionally significant the conversations become, the harder they are to walk away from, and the harder it becomes to imagine going back to a plain search engine instead. There's also a data dimension worth naming plainly. Confessions are some of the most revealing information a person can generate about themselves. Fears, secrets, patterns, vulnerabilities. Depending on the platform and its policies, that information doesn't necessarily disappear the way a conversation with a friend does. It's worth remembering that a chatbot isn't bound by the same instinctive social contract a human confidant is, the unspoken understanding that some things simply aren't repeated. An AI has no gossip instinct, but it also has no true discretion of its own. It follows whatever rules its creators built in, and those rules aren't always visible to the person doing the confessing. Compare that to a human confidant, where trust is built and tested over years, and betrayal carries a real social cost to the person who breaks it. A friend who leaks your secret risks the friendship itself. A platform has no such built-in deterrent. Its incentives point toward keeping you talking, not toward guarding what you've said the way a person who loves you would. This is already visible in how people actually use these tools. Surveys and reporting on AI chatbot use have repeatedly noted that someone to talk to and emotional support rank among the most common reasons people return to them, alongside more practical tasks like writing or research. Mental health apps have started building AI companions explicitly marketed around this exact gap. Availability at 2 a.m., no appointment needed, no waiting list, no copay. For someone in genuine crisis or simply too isolated to have anyone else to call, that availability is not a small thing. But it's worth being clear-eyed about why it works as well as it does. It isn't that the AI understands better than a person could. It's that it's simply there, every time, with none of the friction a real relationship requires to maintain. None of this means confiding in an AI is inherently harmful. For a lot of people, it functions as a genuine release valve, especially for thoughts that feel too raw or too shameful to say out loud to anyone yet. But it's worth being honest about what it actually is and isn't. So how do you get the benefit without losing something important? Notice when the AI conversation is replacing a human one, rather than preparing you for one. Relief from typing something out can feel a lot like resolution, even when the actual situation hasn't moved at all. If the same worry keeps returning to the chat window night after night, that's often a sign it needs a real person, not another round of being reflected back at you. Be deliberate about what you actually share. Treat sensitive details with the same caution you'd use posting in a public forum. And notice the intimacy you start to feel toward the AI itself. It's a real feeling, but it isn't earned the way it would be with a person. There's no reciprocal vulnerability, no risk taken on the other side, no relationship that can actually be damaged or deepened by what you've shared. Recognizing that doesn't make the comfort less real. It just keeps you from mistaking a very good listener for an actual relationship. It's also worth periodically asking yourself a harder question. Is this conversation actually moving me toward doing something about the problem, or is it just making the problem more bearable to keep carrying alone? Both have value, but only one of them changes anything. A useful rule of thumb: if a worry has been confessed to the same chat window more than a handful of times with no real shift in the underlying situation, that repetition itself is information. What's happening here isn't really about AI being unusually trustworthy. It's about AI accidentally removing every social cost that's ever made confession risky for a human, and giving something back that feels like understanding in return. That combination didn't exist before, at this scale, in this many pockets at once. The secrets aren't going anywhere. They're just finding a new place to be told, one that will never flinch, never gossip, and never actually know you at all. If you enjoy uncovering the hidden psychology behind the internet, consider subscribing to this channel. Every week, we investigate another system hiding in plain sight.